Hi everyone, and welcome to our introduction to VPS hosting course here on namehero.com/startup. If you're watching this video on one of our partner sites, such as our YouTube channel, make sure you go to namehero.com/startup so you can enroll for free in this course titled VPS Hosting 101. This is to inform you and allow you to learn about VPS hosting and how you can use this to further leverage your business. The first thing I want to talk about in this video tutorial is really the definition of a VPS and who they are for and who uses VPS hosting. So really quick, let me read this definition provided by Wikipedia. VPS hosting, or a virtual private server, is a virtualized machine sold as a service by Internet Hosting Service. A VPS runs its own copy of an operating system, and customers may have super user level access or root access to that operating system instance so they can install almost any software that runs on that operating system. For many purposes, they are functionally equivalent to a dedicated physical server and can be software defined and are much more easily created and configured. They are priced lower than an equivalent physical server. However, they share the underlying physical hardware with other VPSs. Performance may be lower depending on the workload of any other executing virtual machines. So there's a lot of good stuff in this definition, and that's why I like to use the Wikipedia definition, because I feel like it kind of combines everyone in the industry together so we can get a nice understanding of what it actually is. So a VPS, virtual private server, it runs its own copy of an operating system. So if you look at your computer, for example, it's running its own operating system. So you look at it like your very own computer that's used as a server. You have root access, so it's completely yours, whereas shared and reseller hosting, you're actually sharing that server, or even you can call it a node, with other users. A VPS, it's just yours. You have full root access, meaning you can install OS level specific software. So if there's software that you need for your application or for your website or for your business, you can install it on the OS, whereas if you have a shared or reseller account, you cannot do that. So it's a lot more flexibility. Now, it's for many purposes, it says here, it's functionally equivalent to a dedicated physical server. Nowadays, with the cloud, VPSs are pretty much replacing old school physical dedicated servers, and let me explain why. Here at NameHero, our entire infrastructure is built in the cloud. So that means when you go to buy a VPS from us and we deploy it, it's deploying onto our private cloud. So our private cloud is this collection of servers and this infrastructure that we've specifically built out that utilizes these resources. And so when you go to deploy a VPS, it's deploying off of that private cloud. Now, this definition notes that the performance may be lower. That's not the case with us here at NameHero, because the way we've developed our private cloud, when we deploy a private parent for these VPSs, we don't oversell those resources. So we don't oversell the private parent, so you don't get this degrade in performance. And the great thing about the cloud is when you need more resources, whether that's RAM, disk space, or processing power, you just click a button and it scales up automatically. So this is awesome for websites that are getting a lot of traffic, a lot of hits, and maybe your story went viral on Facebook or Hacker News, or maybe you were mentioned on the TV station or something, and you need to add more resources so your visitors can get to your site. That's the power and the beauty of a VPS, especially on the cloud. So really, the VPSs are replacing old school dedicated servers. Now there is what's called a dedicated cloud server, and we'll talk about that at the very end of this course. But a VPS is a virtualized server. It's not a physical server, but it's a virtual server built on top of the cloud. The benefits, dedicated resources. So this is without a doubt, this is the main reason someone would buy a VPS, is to have the dedicated amount of RAM, disk space, and CPU processing power. So at NameHero, everything's on the cloud, but for our shared and reseller accounts, they are all capped at 2 gigabytes of physical RAM per cPanel. But you have to remember, that's being shared by other cPanels. So once your account, it starts to use up that much RAM, then it becomes limited. So without a doubt, the biggest reason why people want a VPS is to have full access to the RAM in the machine. So for example, someone might start with a 2 gigabyte machine to develop, they go live with a 4 gigabyte, and then as their traffic grows, they go to 6 gigabytes of RAM, then to 8 gigabytes of RAM, which can handle a good bit. Disk space, it's the same thing. You actually have full control over that entire storage drive in the VPS, whereas on shared hosting, you're actually sharing that same partition drive with other users. And then finally, you have the CPU processing power. And with VPS, we call this the CPU cores. So you have virtual cores, which is the power to process all this stuff, everything that's happening. So when you order a VPS from us here at NameHero, you will get to define a number of CPU cores, a number of processors, virtual processors that you're allowed to use. And so in essence, this makes your website faster. Look at it like an engine in a car. You have a 4-cylinder, a 6-cylinder, and an 8-cylinder engine. Obviously, the 8-cylinder performs better than the 4-cylinder, drinks a little bit more gas. Well, on a server, the more cores you have, the better processing is going to be. Full root access, you get to customize every aspect of the server all the way up to the operating system. If you want to install a piece of software that goes on the operating system, you have access to do that. So you can root into the machine and you just have full control, full reign. Whereas shared and reseller hosting, at best, you can have jailed SSH access, which is just very limited command line access. With a VPS, you can go do whatever you so please as long as it's not violating terms of service or being malicious. Eliminate bottlenecks. So if you have a high traffic website, you will often bottleneck on shared hosting. Either your database engine's too slow, you're too slow moving from pages, your CMS, content management system, can't operate. So with a VPS, you're able to eliminate that bottlenecking. You're able just to really expand. So even if you think that your website's just going to blow up, most of the time you're going to go with the VPS. And finally, reliability. It's your server, your website's on the VPS. No one else uses it or shares it. So it's not going to be anywhere else. It's just yours. Just whoever you put on there is who's on there. Some of our customers get it for one website. Some have 10, some have 100 websites. But whatever, it's up to you. You have that control over a VPS. How does this work? Well, you simply sign up for a package with us here at NameHero. You go to our VPS hosting page and you see what you need. You can configure, customize, and set up your server for your websites, your customers, how you see best fit. So this goes back to if you just want to set this up for one WordPress website, maybe you're just going to set it up for the databases for your WordPress site. Sometimes we'll see people build out 2 VPSs, one for their website, the files, 2 for the database. And then they'll interlink them together, which I'm going to explain how to do that in my course. But you get to configure everything. As soon as you purchase it, you can configure how you want that to work. Now, NameHero, we manage the core update to the server while you're free to continue operating and scaling your business. So we're going to update the software for you on the server. You don't have to worry about updating the kernels, updating the web host manager and cPanel. We automatically do this for you free of charge. It comes in our managed hosting package. So you're free just to run your business. We'll make sure your machine stays up to date. You can resell unused space on your VPS. We see this too. Some customers, they just want to have root access. They might not need a demand. Their websites might not be so popular they need a VPS. Therefore, they have a lot of space left over. So a lot of times they'll resell it. And so I'm going to talk about in this course how to master resell to our customers. VPS hosting is completely scalable, especially in the cloud. Unlike VPS is kind of where the beginning of the cloud, a decade or 2 decades ago even, because they actually operated on you would get an old school dedicated server, and then you would use virtualization software to actually partition that out to be multiple servers. Well, really with the cloud, it's the same thing, except the private, or instead of the old school dedicated server, it's this entire infrastructure. So with the cloud, you have this entire infrastructure that's infinitely scalable. So that's why VPS hosting is so awesome. And there's probably still some old school providers. Actually, I know there's some old school providers out there that still VPS on old school dedicateds, but at NameHero, we do not do that. Everything is on the cloud. Everything's a cloud infrastructure. So it's a virtualization cloud, infinite scaling type deal. Who needs a VPS? Well, application developers is a big one. Nowadays the cool thing is to be an application developer. They even call it an application hacker. I work a lot with a lot of customers that are developing mobile apps, mobile softwares, all kinds of applications. And they need to customize operating level specific stuff. So they'll want a VPS. They do everything from the command line. A lot of app developers, they don't like to mess with FTP and stuff. So that's one of the main reasons for VPS. High traffic websites, we've covered that. If your website's getting over 1,000 visitors a day, even 500 visitors a day, you're probably looking at getting a VPS because you just want your own machine. Once your site's that popular, you want to have that full control. You don't want to have shared hosting. You want to have something dedicated. Me personally, I got a taste of this in the late 90s when I created a pro wrestling website, and it got really popular. Shared hosting was not even an option, so that's why I needed it. Web hosting resellers, if you're a web host reseller, you're going to eventually become limited to what you can do with your reseller hosting account. Eventually, you're probably going to scale your business to a VPS and to probably several VPSs. And we'll talk about that in this course, how to do that. Require full root access. I've talked about this several times now in this video. If some people just they want full root access, so that's a reason alone for it. Okay, so now this is going to complete, what a VPS is. I think by now you should know, do you need this or not? Where does it fit in your business? So next up, we're going to talk about how to actually deploy your VPS, and then once it's deployed, how to configure it. Now at NameHero, we're going to do all this for you if you'd like. You can just let us know, but I'm going to show you step by step what needs to be done. Most of our, when you purchase one, our order processing team actually has a checklist they follow. But I'm going to go through these items so you can make sure they're done. You can change them if you want, and of course our team's there to help. But then we're going to get through customizing and performance tuning, talk more about resale hosting in detail. We're going to talk about how to back up and scale your VPS, and then we'll do a moving forward chapter. So again, if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, make sure to head over to namehero.com/startup and register for our free VPS hosting 101 course, and that way you can get all these videos in one place. But thanks for watching, and enjoy the VPS Hosting 101 course here on NameHero.com.